Salt Lake City 2034 on KSL News Radio.
It's obvious why Utah had a leg up on the competition for 2034. Consider the Winter Games in Beijing. They had to build ski slopes and resorts from scratch in a country where few people ski. They had to carve trails into mountains, erect the lifts, build the lodges, the hotels, and then cross their fingers for snow. Here, everything's in place. Jeff Caplan and Amanda Dickson here with the CEO of U.S. Ski and Snowboard, Sophie Goldschmidt. Are you excited for 2034?
Thrilled. Can't wait. Can't be here soon enough. What a day to be announcing this, just fantastic achievement. So much hard work has gone in to get us to this stage, and now the fun really begins.
I want to understand what U.S. Ski and Snowboard does. What's your relationship to all the athletes you're over so many different sports, right?
Yeah, so we're what you call a national governing body. So we have oversight for 10 different sports and disciplines in this country.
Will you tell me what those are?
Yeah, so we have alpine. I mean, within each sport, there are multiple disciplines
Right.
as well. So we have alpine, we have cross country, we have moguls, we have aerials, we have para-Nordic, para-alpine, jumping, Nordic combined, and snowboarding. So it's quite an array. It's funny, everyone always says, God, it must be so hard to manage so many different sports. In some ways, yes, but there are many more similarities than differences, actually. But in total, we fully fund about 250 athletes across those sports. But we have sort of a purview for overseeing really everything related to those sports in the US, from people putting on skis or a snowboard for the first time, right up to some of the best athletes in the world.
That's amazing. How many venues are you involved with for the 2034?
You know, that's a good question. I should probably know exactly, but quite a few. And look, the beauty of these games is that we're not having to build very much from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, the legacy from 2002, our headquarters is actually up the road in Park City. And whether you look at the Utah Olympic Park, where this summer you can see athletes every day training in the pools, and in the winter, obviously, just so many options to get out there in the snow as well.
When you say you fund 250 athletes, what do you mean by that?
So we support them from a training perspective, coaching perspective, so training on and off the hill. So at the moment, we've got loads of our athletes here in Salt Lake, for example, training during the summer. Then they're having snow camps in the Southern Hemisphere, in Europe, here in the US, all of the coaching that goes along with that, all of the travel and logistical support. So these are expensive sports.
But how do you get to be an athlete who's funded? So
you have to make the US ski or snowboard team.
Okay.
So we set criteria before the start of each season. So it's pretty clear what you have to do to be on our team. And we do have kind of limits, caps on how big the team can be. So some of our teams are incredibly competitive.
And you nurture the kids along the way to getting there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're really fortunate in the US. We have an amazing ecosystem of clubs and also academies who support and do, to be honest, a lot of the heavy lifting, getting these kids to a level where they can be in our pipeline to make the US team. And we support the grassroots level in different ways, through coaching support, through education, through administrators, people that actually are putting on the events, a volunteer kind of a system that also is really important to kind of just keep these sports alive.
So how does an athlete make the Olympic team? They have to already be on the U.S. team, is that right? And then you're chosen from there, or how does it work?
Typically, yes, but you also sometimes get young athletes that just have amazing breakout seasons that might not have already made the U.S. team, but in the year of the qualification for the Olympics, they just have some outstanding results. So it's unlikely, but it's happened in the past. You could make the Olympic team without have actually competed for the U.S. team prior to that.
Really? Okay, so you're the governing body for all competitions in this country involving skiing and boarding, and you're involved in nurturing these athletes. I'm going to guess that you've already identified some of the people who might be on our Olympic team 10 years from now.
I think there are some that are on our team at the moment that will still be around competing.
But how about the kids?
And then there are some of the phenoms, the super talent that just is obvious for most to see. And look, a lot of these athletes are starting at a younger age and are breaking through at an earlier age. Having said that, some are going on as longer than ever as well.
I met a young man today who started skiing when he was 2.
Wow.
Is that common, Sophie?
2's pretty young. Normally 3 or 4.
I don't know if my boys walked at 2.
Yeah, no, that's pretty early. Can you give me his name?
Yes.
I need to keep an eye on him.
He's really good.
Yeah, let's get him in the system.
So one of the things when we've talked to, various political leaders about these upcoming Olympic Games was how excited they were for the big air competitions, where you're basically going to create a stadium in downtown Salt Lake City, and these boarders and skiers are going to shoot 100, 150 feet up in the air.
Yeah, big air is pretty incredible to watch. I mean, they literally sort of take off and, a landing in some very tricky positions. But as a spectator sport, it's amazing because you can kind of create a stadium atmosphere around it. And then the tricks they do in the air before they actually land. It's amazing to have something like that downtown as well.
Especially considering that you're going to have people, millions, maybe 1 billion people watching on TV. Here's Salt Lake City.
Where are they going to put that, Jeff? I can't even picture.
Do you know the location?
It's in one of, I don't think they've totally confirmed which stadium, but it's going to be downtown. It's one of
in or near a stadium.
Closing intersections downtown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah,
I
like
just
that.
can't picture it.
But the buildings downtown all the way around with the camera shots of the mountains in the close distance.
It's going to look spectacular.
Yeah, it's going to be drop dead amazing.
Yeah.
Do you work, Sophie, with the people who are over the other winter sports like, short track and figure skating and so on? Are you connected with them at all?
Yeah, we are on certain things very closely. On other things, we kind of get on and do our own thing. But when we all fit under the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So around the Olympic Games, there's a lot of collaboration and sort of integration in different areas, kind of year in, year out outside of an Olympic Games, maybe less so because we have a World Cup season that our athletes are competing in, week out, which is quite different to quite a lot of other sports. So they're sort of really professionals, all year round. And then we come together with the other sports as part of Team USA for the actual Olympic Games, which is always a really special moment.
What's the most challenging part of planning for an Olympic Games 10 years from now?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, look, on a weekly basis, there are challenges that come up, especially in the world today. You never know quite what's around the corner. I mean, I started literally a couple of months before the Beijing Olympic Games, and we thought we were kind of through COVID, and then we weren't, and then getting into China and the kind of isolation sort of procedures we had to have. So who would have thought that actually they pulled that off brilliantly. So as we look ahead here, I think that these sports are evolving and developing, so making sure that we continue to grow participation, get the right talent in the pipeline to ultimately hopefully create as many US champions as possible. There are other things out there that we're very conscious of, climate change and things like that obviously have an impact on our sport in different ways to others. So that's something that we're really focused on and trying to be really thoughtful around. But look, I see it. There are many more opportunities than challenges. I mean, there's still so much upside with these athletes and sports.
Are you involved with the nitty gritty of like checking the downhill to make sure that the course is as fast as it can be, or checking the mogul run? Do you check those nitty gritty things?
You'll be very pleased to hear I have nothing to do with that. We have many experts, both from our organisation and then the international sort of governing body as well, that are responsible. I mean, technical directors that are doing that day in, day out.
Where are those major events, though? We're talking about the skiing, the G, the slalom, all that. Is that going to be at Snow Basin?
So a lot of the Alpine will be at Snow Basin, possibly some of it at the UOP, the new hill that they've built out there. Oh, yeah. We'll have moguls in Deer Valley. We're having slope style, and I believe the half pipe too will be at Park City Mountain. So they're using a bunch of the different resorts and infrastructure that's already in place, which for us is great also, being based here. So being able to use those facilities leading up to it. And then can you imagine kind of the next layer of the legacy after 2002, having all of this in place that our athletes can train in, day out is going to be just awesome.
Can you ban the cowbells at the ski jump?
No,
Could you just
don't
do that?
I love the cowbells.
What
Sorry,
a headache.
Jeff.
No,
I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled to meet you, thrilled to know what you're doing, and hope that we get to speak lots more in the next decade.
Yeah, thanks
Sophie.
for your interest. Great to be here.
It's wonderful to talk to you. Thanks so much, Sophie.
Thank you.
When the Olympics come back in 2034, they're going to need some volunteers. Thousands of volunteers. More coming up after the break.
Salt Lake City 2034 on KSL News Radio.
2002 was a resounding success, but it took tens of thousands of people, including volunteers, with indelible memories left behind. Jeff Caplan and Amanda Dickson here, and for 2034, we won't be able to put on the games without thousands and thousands of volunteers. Amanda,
This is a very important day, a special day in Utah's Olympic history. And joining me now is an event manager with the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation. Mari Reiser is here. Hello, Mari. I want to talk to you about, well, first of all, would you tell me about the work that you do at the Olympic Legacy Foundation?
Yeah, so I help run and organize the elite events at the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation, the World Cups, World Championships at Soldier Hollow Nordic Center, Utah Olympic Oval, and Utah Olympic Park.
What events do those include? For those who moved here after the 2002 Games, which is so many, such a big part of the state, what are the events that take place at those three locations?
Well, at Utah Olympic Park, we have bobsled and skeleton, luge, ski jumping, and Soldier Hollow Nordic Center, we have biathlon and Nordic skiing. And at the Utah Olympic Oval, we have long track speed skating and short track speed skating.
Wow. Even just talking about these things is exciting. I know that so many Utahns who were able to be here in 2002 have, fond isn't a strong enough word, passionate memories about volunteering. Everywhere you went, you saw people in different colored jackets, and blue meant this, and green meant this. I had friends that did basic, like driving people around, but I also had friends that had real skiing ability, real knowledge of a sport. You need those kinds of volunteers, don't you?
Absolutely. That's what we're looking for. We've got the event volunteers, which is VIP access control, but we're really wanting to get our technical volunteers. We have 2002 volunteers that helped out, and they're still volunteering. And it's more the technical side, the timing, the scoring, biathlon range. Things are a little bit more technical on the sports side, and we just want the next generation to come up. And I know those 2002 volunteers are going to be so excited that people want to know the sport that they fell in love with and know so much about.
So how do you know if you'd be good enough or qualified to be a volunteer?
Well, I think there's trainings that you can take ahead of time. And then also we're looking at the 10-year plan. If we do get 34, we have events throughout the next 10 years that we will be able to get experience and volunteer, not just for the events that we host, but also figure skating and hockey with the Go Foundation in Ogden and Sports Salt Lake. There's so many opportunities to volunteer and learn those sports.
So you're saying we need volunteers all throughout the next decade, not just don't wait until 2034. You need volunteers now?
Now.
Wow. What would someone do if they're listening right now and they think, well, I don't know a lot, but I know a little, and I'd like to volunteer. What would you direct them to do?
Yeah. So for our foundation, we have a volunteer sign up. They can go to our website, UtahOlympicLegacy.org, and sign up there. And then the ones that I mentioned before, Goal Foundation, Sports Salt Lake, they have volunteer opportunities that anyone can sign up. Local sport clubs for figure skating and hockey.
It's so exciting. What are some of the events that we're going to have over the next 10 years?
Yeah. So the next one's coming up. We've at Utah Olympic Oval, we've got the Short Track World Cup the first weekend in November, and then the next weekend the 4 Continent Championships, short track as well. So that's one a couple happening at the Utah Olympic Oval, and we're trying to get more and more events so we can get that practice.
Wow. Maybe we fans need practice too. We need to go to those events in November and remember what it was like to be a fan for the thrilling events of like short track. Is short track one of the most thrilling events you've ever seen?
I think so. Personally.
Was that your sport?
It wasn't. No, I didn't do any winter. I did winter sports. It was basketball. But
awesome.
Yeah, not speaking, but it is so exciting to watch. And definitely, if you're not going to be volunteering, then please come out and support these world-class athletes.
Because you'll get hooked on it. And then by the time the games come, you'll be a pro. You'll know some of the names from around the world. And just to have those athletes come from everywhere to our facilities. I remember way back when, and I bet you were too young to remember this, Mari, but when there was some debate over should we spend all this money on these facilities. This was back in the 1990s. And there was just a belief we're going to build these facilities and take good care of them. And this will create, see, I'm going to get goosebumps now. This will create an Olympic legacy, which is what you are and what you represent, and that just thrills me.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Again, I was young, and to be part of this opportunity, I think will just be so memorable. I'm looking forward to it.
Can I ask a stupid question about Soldier Hollow?
Go for it.
How do you watch an event like that covers so much terrain, so many miles?
Yeah, we're a venue that is able to see a lot of the course, actually. So you're in the stadium and you're able to see both sides, the biathlon range and the actual course. And so there will be a few hills that you won't be able to see, but you can go on the course and see the sides of it, and you'll be able to. It's a really incredible venue to be able to see most of it.
Is that where they do the cross country?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I remember to this day the finish from that cross country track. The having been through the most grueling imaginable distance cross country event, and then to see that they have something to pour on in that last 100 yards. I get goosebumps just remembering it. I have to go back up to Soldier Hollow again. So the three venues again: Soldier Hollow, the Olympic Oval, and the Olympic Park are the three that you work with, and you need volunteers now. Do you have a hope at all, Mari, for the next 10 years as we walk up to 2034, a hope for the way we develop this resource of volunteers?
Yeah, I think it's just such a team effort. We can't do it alone. And to be able to work so closely with so many different organizations that are passionate about the same thing that we are, I think it's going to be an incredible thing. That's one thing that I've just heard time and time again, that in 2002, that was one of the biggest things. The highlight of the Olympics were the volunteers.
It was. It really was.
And that's what we need again. We're going to need, 26,000 plus.
Volunteers. And I take nothing away from the athletes when I say this, because of course they were the center. They were the focus. But these beautiful volunteers, and I hope you're listening right now and are ready to sign up again, because calling all volunteers, we need you with all backgrounds, especially if you know this area of sport. Mari, what a thrill to meet you. Good luck. I hope we see each other a lot in the next 10 years.
Yes, me too.
Give me that website one more time.
Yeah, UtahOlympicLegacy.org.
UtahOlympicLegacy.org. And this is a very special day here at KSL News Radio as we celebrate Utah's Olympic legacy.
After the break, the big changes coming for commuters in time for 2034. It's fascinating. Stay here.
Salt Lake City 2034. The past, present, and future. Today, we look at Salt Lake City's past Olympic Games in 2002, our present state of readiness, and the impact on Utah's future. Our hosts this hour are Jeff Caplan and Amanda Dickson.
Now that the Winter Olympics are coming in 2034, we have 10 years to get ready, and an important part is to shore up the transportation system. Consider this: by 2034, Utah's population will have risen to 4 million people. It means we're going to be squeezing another million residents into this state. Amanda, could you imagine another million people?
Plus, how many people come for the games themselves?
So, yeah, right. Imagine the traffic jams. And the solution is mass transit. Jeff Caplan, Amanda Dickson here, imagining the solutions being dreamed up with the executive director of the Utah Transit Authority, the UTA, Jay Fox. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So is there a plan in place for improving mass transit along the Wasatch Front?
Yeah, actually, the plan is independent of the 2034 Olympics. We have a long-range transit plan, all the projects that we're looking at that would benefit the 2034 Olympics are already being developed or actually being implemented and executed. So the great thing is it not only benefits the 2034 Olympics, but it also benefits the entire region, and will help people both before and after the Olympics are occurring.
Is one of those the Orange Line?
Yeah, the Orange Line is part of the Tracks Modernization Project, and that's going to add a line from the airport all the way up to the University of Utah's Research Park.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Now, I'm not a mass transit guy. When you talk about Orange Lines and Front Runner, I'm never on them. So for the people in all those cars who you want to be taking mass transit, could you explain a little of what is to come?
Yeah, well, first we'll see if we can get you to convert.
Once you start riding the train, you never go back.
You never go back.
No.
It's quite the addiction.
I'd sell my car and get rid of it if I could.
Yeah, no, I mean, the nice thing that we have, actually, when you compare ourselves to the 2002 Olympics, is that the express transit and the breadth of the network is so much larger. So, and I usually say, what I like to say is somebody at Weber State can go all the way down to BYU totally on express transit. They take bus rapid transit, front runner 80 miles. And so the beauty of getting out of the car is that you can literally get anywhere you need to go, particularly for the 2034 Olympics, totally on transit.
When you think about the unique challenges of the Olympics, you have so many celebrities and so many people speaking different languages. Yeah. Does UTA look at a situation like that and make specific plans for these unique sorts of challenges?
Well, yeah. I mean, we did that actually for the NBA All-Star Game, and we were inviting the world in. So making sure that our ambassadors, which are administrative employees, were out there welcoming everybody. We had the ability to provide customer service in multiple languages. So that was incredibly successful for us. We did 2,000 hours of additional service just for that week.
So what are you going to build?
I mean, the biggest one that's going on, that we're planning for right now is FrontRunner 2X. So this is increasing the double tracking on FrontRunner so we can move from 30-minute frequency to 15-minute frequency in the peak. And that also opens the door to Sunday service, because one of the reasons why we need Sundays off is not because of any religious reason. It's totally because we need to maintain those lines. And the only time we can really get out there is on Sunday. So that's why we don't have Sunday service.
Will it ever go 24-hour for tracks, Jay?
For tracks, well, the problem is for us on tracks is that we share that line with the Utah Railway.
Yeah.
And so they move all their freight at night. So that's something that could potentially happen in the future, but that would have to happen with negotiations, not only with UTA and the railway, but really probably the state and the railway.
Yeah.
So we have FrontRunner 2X.
Yeah, the next one is tracks modernization, which we talked about, which that will add that fourth line, the orange line, and that will replace all of the blue line light rail cars. So if you know the blue line light rail cars, you actually have to step up onto them. Yeah. If you're a person with disabilities, you have to high board on the end platform. Mm-hmm. So we have a procurement right now to replace all those cars with all level boarding, and that's important not only for the Olympic Games, but it's important for the Paralympic Games. Right. So make sure that we have a fully level boarding system for anybody who has mobility challenges.
Okay. And then, so you said how many projects? 4 or 5?
It's 5 altogether. So we have Mid-Valley Express, which we're looking to sign in a grant agreement with the Federal Transit Administration actually this August, and that will connect Murray with West Valley and Maverick Center through a bus rapid transit system similar to what we have in Ogden and similar to what we have down at Provo UVX.
So it takes you to one of the venues of the Olympic Games.
Exactly, and these were the kinds of things that we were showing the Future Host Commission when they were considering Salt Lake City as the venue for the 2034
You were part of
Games.
that presentation.
Yeah, well, I was when they came here, right, they were actually on board one of our tracks vehicles, and we were talking about the different projects that we have coming online.
Did you have entertainers? Were there people playing guitars and singing on the trains?
Not that I can recall, but we did have a wonderfully wrapped tracks train, and which will be actually going around.
That was actually a really cool part of the 2002 Games. There'd be performers, but I'd see them out, long queues of people waiting to get into a venue. Yeah. They wouldn't get feisty waiting because there'd be performers, comedians and singers.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we're committed right now to fun in transit. We have a lot of things that we've had performers on the trains and performers, at our platforms. So yeah, I would think that in 2034 we're going to make sure that people are entertained while they're queuing up to get to events.
I remember from 2002, people stayed in hotels from way up north to way down south.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about 2034 versus 2002, because we now have a fully multimodal regional system, right? So again, if you're attending an event up in Ogden, you jump on FrontRunner and you can get down to Salt Lake County and attend any events down here. Yeah. Transfer over to our bus network, transfer over to our light rail network. It's the map. When you compare the map of what UTA was in 2002 versus what it will be in 2034. It's night and day.
And you're going to have twice as many trains running, or at least every 15 minutes instead of every 30.
Yeah, for front runner, and then for tracks now you have 7.5 minute frequency on North Temple coming out of the airport. It's and that's again to think about it beyond just 2034 as we look to potentially a Major League Baseball stadium in that area. Now you have a second line feeding that as well.
And I love the thought of being able to get on the train here and go straight to the U without having to change trains over it. That's just my personal.
No, it's part of what we're doing. And also, we're going to do is remove the red line off of that Main Street alignment and have it go through the Granary District and then go up to the university. So that helps the development there. The other part of that, for those who ride tracks, we currently have 5 stops that have 3 lines going through that. So any one of those lines has a delay, that delays them all. Yeah. So now this reduces it to only 2 stops that have 3 lines.
Now, to anybody grumbling, I'm never going to take mass transit. You have to sit on a train platform. It's cold during the winter and all that kind of thing. They're going to have to. With an extra 1 million people out on the roads every day, it's going to be insane here.
As a recent convert, Jeff, I only started riding the train 2 years ago. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love not having to pay all that gas and the wear and tear on my car. Honestly, if you ran 24 hours, I'd get rid of my car.
Let me guess, do you do work while you're on the train?
Oh, sure.
Which you can't do in the car.
Sure.
Yeah, and to your point, Jeff, I would say anybody who attended the Warriors of the Wasatch a couple weekends ago would feel that they got so much time back by going on transit. The compliments that we've received for the level of service that we had, bringing people in on front runner, bringing people on bus and getting them right over to the show in very hot weather.
What did you have? 500,000, 1 million people? This is at Hill Air Force Base,
yeah,
right?
I couldn't tell you the folks that were over there, but we actually throughout the valley, we took about 200,000 additional riders.
So we have this almost Panglossian plan for 2034, a massive transportation network that will whisk everybody everywhere. So I'm going to bask in the glow of self-interest here. How are you going to pay for it?
How are we going to? Well, like I said, this is all part of the long-range transit plan. So the funding of it is something that we're already working for. It's not like we're going out and looking to the Federal Transit Administration for something that we're not planning. Right, so this is already it was already part of our long-range transit plan. All the projects I talked about. So the paying for it is what we would typically look for from our stakeholders just for transit investments.
So is it federal, state? Does anything have to be allocated, or the money's already there?
We would anticipate, again, Frontrunner 2X. There's been a huge infusion of funding from our state legislators into that project, and actually MVX, Mid Valley Express, which I talked about before, that has state funding in as well. So you would expect that would continue.
Yeah, we made money off the last Olympics, and I know we're expected to make more off this games as well.
Oh yeah, no, I know the Ken Gardner Institute is taking a look at that, and I think it's like over $6 billion. And the nice thing about us is we were doing economic studies as well, and we return a tremendous amount to the region for transit annually. I think it's around $9 billion annually.
Do you get federal grants to help pay for these projects?
Yeah, well, so the replacement of the rail cars, which is part of that planning towards 2034, again, regionally and Olympics, there's a $60 million grant for that. We just received $18 million for new electric buses from the federal government. The MVX project was funded by both the state and the federal government. So yeah, there's a lot of good funding out there.
So what's your most tech-forward improvement that you're expecting? For instance, we had Governor Cox in here as part of this show, and he was talking about flying cars by 2034, and that was pretty cool, and it had our attention. Anything crazy you guys have planned?
Blimps, right? No. So, you know what? I mean, it's. I always describe transit as a high-tech industry anyway. If you go on any of our vehicles today, they're quite high-tech. So, I mean, I think the one that we're excited about region-wide is Frontrunner 2X because of what it's going to do. Not that everybody takes Frontrunner, but it is the spine of our system. Yeah. It's an 80-mile
and they may start as a result of that.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're talking about like a large tech improvement to transit in this region, that's a big one.
Thank you for the work you do, Jay.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Right now, some of the athletes who are going to compete in the 2034 Games are only 9 years old. We're going to talk to a 2-time Olympic medalist and a very young hopeful after the break. Stay with us.
Salt Lake City 2034 on KSL News Radio.
Jeff and Amanda here. We've been looking back to 02 and forward to 2034, and you can't do that without athletes.
What a thrill it is to have two superstar skiers with me here in the studio. A former Olympian and a possible future Olympian. Joining me now is Shannon Barkey. How are you, Shannon?
Oh my gosh, having the best day. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. And hopeful, cross your fingers, future Olympian Mason Schwarzenbach is here. Hello, Mason.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is my thrill. I'm going to start with Shannon because Shannon, those of us who were lucky enough to be here in 2002 will never forget that was moguls, right?
Yes.
Now, you're a freestyle skier.
Yes, I'm a freestyle mogul skier.
Tell us more about your experience in 2002 and all of the many times you've been on the podium, not just for Olympic Games, but for World Cups.
Yeah, 2002 was absolutely magical. It was my first Olympic Games. And those of us that remember, it was right after 9/11.
Yes.
And we didn't know if we were going to be able to host an Olympics. I didn't know if I was going to be able to compete in those Olympics. So to be able to walk into opening ceremonies at my first Olympic Games when I was 21, I'm 25 now, so don't do the math, people, okay? But it was just, it took this feeling of it's so much more than just about me and my dream of winning an Olympic medal to representing my country, representing the world and coming together in peace. So watching, the World Trade Center flag come in, watching the Olympic cauldron be lit, and then the very next day to win America's first medal, it was just like, it's still a dream come true.
Okay,
I did that. Stop it.
I mean, there was President Bush right in the midst of all of you in the stadium, that opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you won the first medal. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, I got to beat out my really good friend, although he went on to, win Olympic gold and set world records, Derek Parra.
Yeah.
I got to beat him out by 30 minutes, and I'll never let him forget that. So still a running joke.
You go on then, 8 years later, to ski in Vancouver.
Yeah, I skied in Torino in 2006 after a bunch of injuries. But just to get there was one of my greatest achievements of my career. But then, yes, to go on and be the first freestyle athlete, male or female, to win 2 Olympic medals in Vancouver and bring home a bronze. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy to hold them. And, I always say I didn't win gold, but if I take my silver and my bronze and I bring them together and I squint, it almost looks gold.
Well, we just think you're awesome, Shannon. All right, now let's turn our attention to the young man next to you. Give him some advice, Shannon, because it is your dream, Mason, to be an Olympic skier too, yes?
Yes.
Yes, give him some advice, Shannon.
The best advice that I can give to you is to have fun. Love what you do. Work extremely hard when it is the time to work hard, but when it is time to have fun, enjoy the moment. And it is this thing, your career will be long, and it will go from now until I retired at 29. So there has to be so much fun in there. So smile when you can smile, and dig deep, and put your head down when you need to put your head down.
Mason, tell us about you and your skiing. You're 12, right?
Yes.
How long have you been skiing?
I've been skiing since I turned 2.
2 years old. So what do you do a specific kind of skiing? You're a freestyle skier too?
Yes.
Does that mean moguls?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you love about it?
I just love the skiing, skiing the moguls, and I also love the jumps, skiing the moguls into the jumps. And then I just like the combination, and then all the events are really fun, so I like it.
That's what I loved about it too.
Was the how fun it was?
Well, I just love that in our sport we can be good skiers, and then we can jump, and it can be hard, and then it's like the combination of all the things and doing it as fast as humanly possible. That's what I loved about it too. So I love that.
So you like to go fast, Mason?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel thrilled because I just bet in 10 years I'm going to be watching you too. So have you already competed nationally?
So I compete in regional events.
I see.
And I qualified for junior nationals last year, and I skied in junior nationals. But yeah, so that's in the region, and then junior nationals was like a country event.
Oh, that's exciting.
Where was Junior Nationals held?
It was held at the Utah Olympic Park. So it was
Oh, home court advantage. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about home court advantage for a second. So what was it like, Shannon, competing here in Salt Lake City?
You know, it was funny because before I made the Olympics, I always wanted it to be in some different location, right? I wanted it to be somewhere in the world. And then when it was here, I realized what it means to ski in front of your country, to have everybody in the audience wearing red, white, and blue and being there to compete for you. So it was just this magical experience to see everybody in the red, white, and blue and chanting USA and being there on home court. So, oh man, I'm so thankful I got to compete here.
When you look ahead, Mason, when do you think you'll start trying to go for the Olympics? I don't even know what age that happens for skiers.
So there's a lot of different steps to get up to like World Cup level and then to the Olympics. So I ski in regionals right now, but then you can move up and you can keep competing and you can make nationals and then selections and then the NORAM tours. And then
NORAM? What's that?
I think it stands for North America.
Yeah, it's the North American tour.
I'm sorry. Keep going. I interrupted.
And then you can... And then if you do really good in selections and really good in the NORAMs, you can make World Cups. And then hopefully you make it on the national team. And then maybe you can make it to the Olympics.
In your mind, do you see that happening in your life?
I really hope so. But I can't.
How much do you ski every season?
Like 80 to 100 days.
Seriously? So it's almost constant.
Yeah.
How do you juggle school with that? That's none of my business probably, but I'm just curious.
We ski after school a lot, and then we ski on weekends, and Fridays we get out early, and so we ski.
Did you start that young too, Shannon?
I did. I started skiing. Well, I was a year behind, so he's already got a leg up on me.
Yeah.
I started skiing when I was 3, and then I actually just joined our local team in Lake Tahoe at now Palisades Tahoe, but I joined that team when I was 12. And he's right, you know, competing regionally and doing well and then getting invited to junior nationals. I remember my first junior nationals was at Winter Park, and then, you know, making it to the bigger competitions at nationals and getting selected for the U.S. ski team. And I will never forget the first time I was able to put on that outfit for the U.S. ski team. I slept in it. I was like, this is the best thing ever. I mean, I'm representing my country. Like, this is the coolest. So that feeling, you know, making that national team and then competing well. And they do qualify the Olympic team from the U.S. ski team. So if you're not on that U.S. ski team, it's very hard to make the Olympic team. So, but you just got to go, you know, little step by step, piece by piece, keep improving in those places that you can improve, and suddenly you find yourself on the U.S. ski team with a shot at making the Olympic team.
So do we have the greatest snow on earth?
Yes.
That's a yes for Mason? For you, Shannon?
Absolutely. Of course we do.
I had to check it because you both skied, I'm sure. Have you skied in different places too, Mason?
Yeah, I've skied. I haven't skied like on the East Coast yet, but I've skied Whistler, Mount Hood, Jackson Hole, all those, and here. But I think we have the best snow.
And Shannon, you have to agree.
Absolutely.
And you skied all over the world.
I've skied all over the world. I've skied at some really magical places, but there's nothing like coming home, knowing every inch of our local resorts and just having the best powder in all the world right at your fingertips. Or your ski tips, not your fingertips, your ski tips.
All right, the time is gone, but I just want you to say 2 words about why people should be excited about having the games in 2034.
Olympic spirit. There is nothing like the Olympic spirit.
Mason, a couple of words. Why should we be excited about having the games?
Because it'll be really fun having everyone here watching us compete. And if they can see how good we are, then we can show them how good we are. Then, yeah.
His name is Mason Schwarzenbach. Remember that name.
Yes, I've got it ingrained in my memory. Woo!
And Shannon Barkey. So good to see you again, Shannon.
Thank you for having me.
Big announcement here on KSL News Radio.
Thanks, Amanda. A fitting finish. Thanks to our many guests over the past 3 hours, and thank you for joining us on this journey through Utah's Olympic efforts, past, present, and future. And Now that we've been officially awarded 2034, next comes the hard part of making it all happen. Thanks for listening.